This is But For Real.
But for real. What up, everybody? I'm Dave.
I'm Jazzy.
And welcome to your new, maybe not new, but if
Not
you are
so
new, welcome.
Anymore, you know.
It's all good in the
here.
hood. It's all good. Welcome to your new favorite podcast, But For Real.
Yeah.
Welcome to one of the best podcasts you'll ever hear.
Period.
We're dope.
So dope.
Okay.
That's it.
Jazz, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Sorry, I called you Jazz. Nails, how are you doing?
Jazz is totally fine. I'm so glad.
Nails, how you doing today?
I am great. I am
Me
awesome.
too.
I am tired, but you know.
Well, you slept
What is new?
for so long last night.
So much good sleep.
You had such a
Did I
great
dream?
night of sleep.
No REM sleep at all, actually.
But yeah, I feel good.
Yeah, I didn't even ask. How are you?
Celebrating new things in life.
Absolutely.
You know, it's a challenge, but I've always enjoyed a good challenge. I'm a risk taker, so
Absolutely.
challenges are where I thrive.
Absolutely.
Okay, but welcome to the pod, But For Real. And this is a podcast where we talk about any and everything. Sometimes
Any and everything.
we don't even be on topic because we just be talking. And it's all good. Shout out to the Patreon who is getting all this early.
Absolutely.
You can look at the link right here, somewhere down there. This is just, I'm doing this as a reminder for me to put this in.
Annoying.
All right. So shout out to
For
the
sure.
Patreon. Shout out to the real ones who are getting all this footage early.
Speaking beside us.
$5 a month or however
Appreciate
much
it.
you want to give. That
For sure.
supports us to keep doing this thing. And listen, we got some more stuff coming. This ain't it. The podcast is just the start.
Absolutely.
We got shows coming.
Ooh.
We got other things coming. So just stay tuned.
Please stay
Be
tuned.
in the know. Because now that this new chapter has started, oh, I can't wait to prove.
Foot is on the gas, okay? It's up and it's
Listen.
stuck.
The
For
foot
sure.
is on the gas like a brick and it's not coming off.
It's up and it's stuck.
So
For sure.
if you ain't helping me build this thing, stay out of my way.
For sure.
Amen. All right. So our first segment is called Let's Get Personal.
Gotta get personal, you know? Gotta get the transparency. That's how we gotta start.
And we'll just wait on Nails over here.
What? Nobody want to answer this because listen. Okay. What political party do you most? Right. I just
There
kind
is
of
no-
want to put this
There is
card
no
down.
political party. Next.
You want to
Do another one. I don't care. We don't care.
Yeah, this ain't that podcast for that.
No.
Have you ever hit a person of the opposite sex? Okay. If so, explain what happened.
Have I ever hit them?
Yeah, hit a person of the opposite sex.
I mean, yeah, because I have a sister.
You hit your sister?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
We were young and dumb.
I don't care how old you was. I'm judging you.
We were little children and little
My brother
kids.
definitely hit me when I was younger.
We were little
and
kids
I cried every time.
and we fight. That's
Yeah.
what you do with siblings. You fight.
So I guess it should be like a question like for like if you were an adult.
As an
Adult.
no, not intentionally. Unless we was like play fighting or something
Oh, okay.
but
You think it could get to that point for you?
anger? No.
Oh, okay. I mean,
Here's the
People
thing though, it's hard for me to get angry. Because I don't care.
is it hard for you to get angry or do you have emotional intelligence where you can control it?
Both. It takes a lot for me to get angry. I may get frustrated, but I think anger is like the step before I'm pissed off.
Yeah.
But anger, being pissed, it takes a lot for me to get there.
I guess that's healthy. I don't know if anger really is necessary. I think it's negative for real when you think about it.
But
so to not get angry or to, control your emotions where anger doesn't really happen like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty dope. Because I can think of a million things right now that will make me angry.
Like physical abuse? No. I don't want to go to jail. I don't.
Because I'm calling the popo for sure.
I am not going there.
I'm one of them. Don't play with me like that.
I am too fine for jail.
You are. You too light skinned and everything.
My eyebrows are too good. My hair is.
Shut up.
My hair is really nice.
Oh my God, you're so irritated.
One look at me. Nope.
Well, I thank God for your emotional intelligence.
I was actually talking about this with my friend Alex, and so I don't know how we got on the subject, but I was just like, I can't go to jail. Like, it's just something about the whole drop the soap thing. Like, if I were to go to jail, I would get my booty hole sewn shut. Like, absolutely sewn shut.
Hey, shut up.
So she was like, well, how would you use the bathroom?
Like, how do I remove my booty hole?
I would literally have them put the bag,
hey,
put a hole in my stomach, open the bag, put a bag there, and I would use it as a weapon, too.
Oh, my God.
So if they try something, I'd take the bag full of boo-boo out, and I would throw it on them and be like, eat my like in the help.
No.
I can't go to jail.
I do not approve this message.
Can't
Dave,
do
you're
it.
not going to jail ever.
I'm not ever going to
You know
jail.
what?
I would never put myself in that position.
I pray, if it's one thing that I pray about, it's not having to deal with something, because I have a child. So
yeah, that's true too. Because
I could definitely go to prison over my child, 100%.
Because I'm already overprotective.
Yeah,
of like
and just think about something happening to your child that's like,
Because see, I'm a thinker.
Unforgivable almost.
I'm a thinker, and I don't move quick. So do something.
Man, I think about it all the time. Like,
and then
Jazzy, that
a
would
year
suck,
from now,
I would really go to prison over my child. Like,
I would.
I'd be salty in that cell. I really would. I'd be like, dang, Jazzy, you could have not done that, but it's kind of justified.
But also,
they had to go.
You could have not touched my child.
Right?
So,
I know. It's like, but please, Lord, don't nobody touch my child. I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to go to prison. That's the only thing.
That's why I got another reason. Got to stack this money up.
Get
that bail money ready, because you touch my kids. Please just don't do it.
I know.
Don't do it.
Yeah. But have I ever hit a person of the opposite sex? Yes, twice.
Like out of anger and rage.
Out of anger and rage.
Like you became the Incredible Hulk.
I did. So the first time.
I was about to say, please explain this story.
Yeah, it's part of the question. On this transparency. This is the transparency section of the podcast. So we're going to be transparent.
It's just a transparent podcast.
But the first time I feel like, what happened? I don't remember what was said, but it was something that I knew that the person knew was going to hurt me. And it was kind of like a below the belt, like, type of jab. So it's like, how like you would talk about that all the time. Like, certain times it's hard for you to be vulnerable because you're afraid of it being used against you. Like, and I think that was what that moment was. It was like, all right, well, I kind of told you some things I'm ashamed of and this or that. And you kind of threw it in my face and kind of like, it was almost like you hit me. That's how it felt. So that's why I retaliated and actually with the physical thing. Was it okay? Absolutely not. I think about that all the time. Like, oh, Jazzy, that was so toxic. And that was just the first time. The second time, it was in a relationship. Both of them was in a relationship. This second time in a relationship, which was my previous relationship, I can't remember. I think we had an argument or whatever, and I was like asking him to leave my house, and he wouldn't. And I just saw that as disrespect on top of like him kind of like shutting me out. We talked about how I'm learning now that that's kind of a trauma response for me. It's for somebody to shut down, like that makes me angry.
Right.
Now me, getting healthy and all, I wouldn't get angry at that anymore. But at the time, I wasn't healed. And, him shutting down was making me angry. And on top of that, he wouldn't leave. So I kind of like spazzed out. And, so that's what happened. Not proud moments. I think about those moments and cringe all the time. Like, what was going on? Like, why do you express your anger like that? But these are things I grew up seeing. So just being honest. Obviously, it makes sense that it'd be in my DNA. We talked about that, how, your brain develops from your experiences and your feelings from your experiences. Some things you may not even know you are reacting to because your brain development, things you've seen as a kid helped your brain develop a certain way, which influences your behaviors and your actions.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, it's not a shock that I end up hitting somebody because they hurt me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's kind of makes complete sense considering what I went through and what I've seen. So, yeah. I'm happy to be able to, talk about that in a healthy way now and be like, yeah, that's what's wrong. Cause
Somebody ever hit you?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Do you want to go there or do you not?
It was a few, well, so I hate to, I like to talk about me, you know what I'm saying? Because I don't want to out anyone else. You know what I mean? Like, I be trying to protect other people's privacy. That's why I don't really get into specifics. Like, even with trauma, like, I couldn't really go into detail because if I did, then I'd be, you know what I'm saying? I'd be out in my family and things like that, which I'm not trying to do. Because I don't know. I'm kind of on and off with that. I don't know. We might get there, but for now, I just feel like it's not comfortable for me to kind of get specific on who and all of that. But yeah, someone put their hands on me. More than one male put their hands on me. And yeah, I called the police on one of them. And yeah, that was that. I cried, whatever, and got through that, I guess.
I'm sorry.
We stayed together.
I'm sorry that happened.
Me too. I think I provoked it, but I mean, I'm not trying to make excuses for anybody, but I definitely provoked it. I think I provoked it both times. But at the same time, people aren't healed. People don't have, and I really think it's just lacking emotional intelligence, like we were talking about.
Right.
Allowing yourself to get angry. There's nothing but negativity that comes from anger. I don't think anger is ever a good thing. So.
Mm-hmm. No, it can be. Just depends on what you allow it to do.
Yeah, and I think that's a part of the intelligence I'm learning. Like, that's kind of what I started studying just on my personal time is emotional intelligence, because I do feel like I need that a lot, because just what we were just speaking about, it's one thing to have emotions, but it's another to be able to control them. It's another to be able to handle them, maybe talk about it, just knowing ways to do things where it doesn't turn into this negative situation. I think that's what emotional intelligence is. It's not really not allowing yourself to get angry, but it's understanding that this anger is not going to end well. So let me do something healthy about this so that it doesn't get anywhere. So that's kind of like something that I'm working on within myself, is making sure that my anger is tamed and normal. And obviously, being around people that don't make you angry, we got to stop allowing ourselves to be fed things that make us angry as well. So understanding our surroundings and who we surround ourselves with and all of that is just as important. Because you can work on yourself all day, but if everybody around you is pissing you off, it's probably not going to be that successful. So, yeah, I've been through it, the whole violence situation on both ends. And, yeah, it's not good.
Okay. But shout out to growth. Look at you.
Absolutely.
Look at you now.
Absolutely. It will never happen now.
Out here shining, forehead and all.
I know. Why my forehead still shining? It's my good lotion.
I'm weak.
I be needing it. All right, so did we answer the questions?
We answered the question.
All right, so we on to the next
segment. It's called Let's Keep It Real.
Let's keep it real, guys. So today, I think it's the perfect follow-up to our last 2 episodes, and it's about forgiveness and grace.
My God.
I feel like this has to be, we talking about personal development. We talking about growth. How you gonna grow if you don't forgive? I don't think that's possible, right? And then I had to, of course, do some research on that as to why, forgiveness is important. So let's just talk about what forgiveness actually means, because I've had conversations with people where, we'll talk about forgiveness and they'll be like, well, I can forgive, but at the same time, I can't. And I think they're thinking more so like,
How does that even? Wait,
I
what?
guess people think of forgiveness like say you hurt me really badly. I stop fooling with you, or I keep talking to you. Like, that's forgiveness. That action right there, whether I'm stay in in existence with you or not.
Right.
Where it's really not that. And honestly, when I think about forgiveness, I kind of was thinking about that as well. I think just subconsciously, that's how I look at forgiveness. Like, oh, if I forgive you, that means I have to stay connected to you. But forgiveness the word literally means to let go. So in that aspect, really what forgiveness is you just not allowing your past hurts or someone that hurt you affect your behaviors
Yeah.
and your thoughts and your feelings, or just affect you. So that in itself kind of implies why it's important. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
If forgiveness means to let go, then obviously it's because of you. It's because of all the health factors that goes along with letting go, which obviously what I want to talk about. So, and then I have grace, which the definition of grace is technically undeserved favor. And I think that's important to note. Because can you really forgive someone without grace, without understanding that it's undeserved favor? Because that's another thing I feel like that keeps people from forgiving, is this idea that they don't deserve it. You know what I mean? This idea like, if I forgive you, there's no justice. If I forgive you, there's no, like, you just got away with it. I let you slide. You know what I mean? But if you really realize what forgiveness is, yes, you're giving them something they don't deserve. But you also need that as well for yourself. So it's not just about other people.
And that's the thing, right? You're giving somebody something they don't deserve, but you're giving yourself something that you do.
Right.
And that is freedom. That's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness has nothing to do with what the other person deserves. I deserve to be free from the thing you did to me.
For sure.
Because if I don't let it go, what you did to me is going to go with me and intoxify every single relationship, every single thing that I am a part of if I don't forgive you. Because I deserve to heal. And I deserve and let me say this, learn how to forgive even if you never get an apology. Because I think people think there's steps to this forgiveness thing. There's not. You need to forgive for you. Has nothing to do with the other person. Forgiveness has nothing to do with if I forgive this person, I have to keep them in my life.
Yeah. I think we think like that, like, oh, I ain't forgiving you because that means I got to stay with you. I got to stay in connection with you. Like, no, you can disconnect.
You can absolutely disconnect.
Disconnect,
just
detach.
Because,
you over there, I'm over here.
Right.
But I forgive you.
But people think forgiveness means that I have to forget. No, I don't.
Right.
I forgive you because I want to be free.
Right.
But freedom isn't the absence of thought.
Right.
Or the absence of remembrance. I forgive you, but I don't trust you anymore. And if I'm in deep relationship with you and I value this relationship, you have to gain that trust back.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to put in the work for you to trust me again. You hurt me.
Right.
So please understand, forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. It has everything to do with you and your freedom. And also, there is no such thing as forgiveness and holding a grudge.
What do you mean?
So, let's say you hurt me, right? And I'm like, I forgive you, but I make you suffer because of what you did.
Mm-hmm.
That's not true forgiveness.
No.
So I'm holding a grudge against you because you hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
But I told you I forgive you. That's not true forgiveness.
Right.
And I saw a quote that said, holding a grudge is like you drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die.
Yeah. Yep. It really is.
And that's not true forgiveness.
Yeah.
True forgiveness is I am releasing you from me, and I'm releasing myself from the hurt and the pain. Doesn't mean I forgot what you did.
Right.
But I forgive you because I deserve to be free.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So yeah, I wanted to talk about this study that I always got to do my little research. This is a doctor named Robert Seaholt. You can do your own research on him. But it actually wasn't his study. It was just a study he was explaining. I can't remember who did the study. But it was basically a study about how gratefulness basically impact our feelings, our optimism, how it's linked to cardio health, and how basically expressing feelings about being hurt, and all of that kind of does the opposite. So basically the study was basically just explaining how there's a big impact on being grateful of something versus versus expressing all the hurt and pain, I guess, that you've been through in your life. I guess for me, like what that says to me is to practice being grateful. I think forgiveness, sometimes when we think about forgiveness and why it's so hard for us, I think that's part of the reason, like us not being grateful for, even just wisdom or insight, or just, you know what I'm saying? Like just being grateful for other people in your life or whatever, like just having those feelings and being able to express the feelings of gratefulness. It kind of, I think that's what he said in the study, like it literally impacts to your toxic feelings. Like, so they did a study where it was like over time, and like they found a way to measure like your mental health through like your cardio health and things like that.
Yeah.
And basically they seen like an increase in health over time through the group that practice grateful writing. Like they was doing they wrote a letter every week or something like that, or every day or something like that, for like a long period of time, and then like every week they did these measurements, and it basically they saw healthier people in the people that was expressing gratefulness rather than the people that was expressing the things that they need to forgive, and all the past and the hurt and things like that. And for me, that spoke to me a lot, because I don't feel like I practice that. When you think about it, you kind of have this idea of what unforgiveness look like. You know what I'm saying? It looks like these negative feelings, all of these negative feelings that you dwell on, like, and when I think about it, like, I don't feel like I practice gratefulness as much as I practice, I've been hurt all this time, and all these things that happened to me, and this woe is me type of, feelings. I feel like that is more prevalent in my life than being grateful and expressing gratefulness. And I just think that's important.
We live in a victimized culture now, not a accountability culture, self-accountability, right? Like, we live in the era of caring.
Mm-hmm.
We live in the era of, you did this to me.
Yeah.
So I get to do whatever I want now. And I think that is a huge factor in the whole gratefulness thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, why we don't practice enough gratefulness. Like, a little bit of my story, I've been through a lot, like, since a kid. So since a young age, I knew what grieving was. Lost my brother, lost 3 of my grandparents, and a lot of things had to mature me as a young age. And then as I got older, my mother and we were homeless for 3 years. And in those moments of just having a little bit, you find reasons to be grateful.
Yeah.
And
you have to kind of choose it, though, right? You kind of have
like
to choose
and
that.
it's a choice every single day. Like, I can either sit here and complain about what I don't have, or I can sit here and be grateful for what I do.
Yeah.
Like, being in that hotel room for 3 years, you gotta find a way to get through the day.
Right.
Like, you have to find a way to be grateful. And
Yeah.
thanks be to God, like my mom has a way of making wherever we were, she made it feel like home.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent 3 Christmases in that hotel room. Like, my sister and her former husband and the kids would come, and we would sit in that one small hotel room,
Mm-hmm.
and we would have Christmas, and it was amazing. It didn't feel like a hotel room; it felt like home.
Yeah.
And so, you find the small things to be grateful for. Like,
Yeah.
for me, probably the reason why I'm not impressed by a lot of things, like I'm not moved by it,
Mm-hmm.
is because I found gratefulness when I had nothing. So it's kind of like I found what gratefulness and happiness really meant
Mm-hmm.
before all the things that I'm blessed with now that
Yeah.
I don't take for granted. Don't get me wrong. But if I didn't have these things, I would still be grateful,
Yeah.
because there was a time in my life where I didn't have stuff.
Right.
I didn't have the means to own a studio, to pay a car note, take care of my family and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, finding those small things, like for me, man, I got up this morning.
Right.
You know, I'm breathing today. Somebody didn't wake up this morning. That's a
Right.
reason to be grateful.
Yes.
You know, the fact that there's gas in my car, even though gas is $1.5 million.
Shut up. You say this so much all the time.
I'm getting an electric car. I'm so overpaying for gas. It's so overrated.
Then your electric bill gonna be, well, I guess you get whatever.
Still not the same price of gas.
I'm gonna be old school for the rest of my life.
But there's gas in my car. Don't want to pay for the gas, but it's in there. I have the means.
You have the means.
I have the means to pay for the gas, and there are people who don't. Like,
for sure.
You have to look at these things and find reasons to be grateful.
Right.
And I promise you, if you are in a space where you feel like there's nothing to be grateful for, go talk to somebody who will probably switch life with you right now.
Right.
There is somebody out there who would look at your life and be like, man, I'll switch with you any day.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps me grounded, because I know what it feels like to go without.
Yeah.
To not know where your next meal is coming from. That's why I don't eat ramen noodles today.
I still eat my ramen noodles a little bit sometimes.
2 things I will never eat again. Ramen noodles and Hot Pockets.
Pizza rolls.
Never.
Pizza rolls for me. I smashed them in college. Like, that was like
Never.
my meal. Like, that was dinner.
Like, you want to talk about trauma?
Oh.
Man, them
Yes.
ramen noodles.
It's definitely PTSD. Like,
I
looking
can't.
at pizza rolls for me.
And it's also because that's all we could afford. So
Right.
it was just like, bruh.
And the Michelina, I used to get the Michelina Alfredo, the dollar thing.
Yes.
Put my
Oh,
hot
my.
sauce on.
You know, they like $3 now.
What? Oh,
Tripping. No, you good.
Man. No, fact. So I want to, so I love everything that you was talking about, because that's why I wanted to bring up that study. I thought that study was so important, at least for me, because it's like, dang, Jazzy, that you don't practice gratefulness. Like, you don't practice gratefulness as much as you practice, oh, this happened to me. Oh, this happened to me. Oh, this happened to me. I got to heal from this. I got to heal from this. But we have to understand that there's a biological explanation for this, right? Because when you think about it, it's common sense, right? If you're always expressing, and it's not even always expressing, if you're never expressing gratefulness and you're only expressing things that you need to forgive and all the pain, what are you feeding your brain? You're feeding your brain negative feelings all the time. Even if it's not all the time, the fact that you're not feeding your brain positive feelings, you know, gratefulness, when you think about it, it's you're programming your brain to think positively.
Yeah.
There was another study about optimism, like how optimism is linked to like a longer standard of, or a longer lifespan.
Yeah. Like,
So-
you were very what am I saying? Optimistic.
We can't talk today.
We can't
It's
talk
a
today.
Celsius.
You were very optimistic about being on time
I
today.
was.
You really were.
But I spoke an accident. And
it
it happened. I
happened.
spoke it.
You
and
showed
it happened.
up
That's
and-
crazy. And what's crazy is, as soon as I sent the message, like, oh, I'm like, what it's going to be an accident. And it was. That's nuts.
That's crazy.
But honestly, if I would have left at like at least 5 minutes earlier, I probably would have missed the accident. So I still hold myself accountable. I should have left 5 minutes early. Throat was hurting, needed a little ginger tea. But, you know.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, I was trying to drink it and get ready at the same time, and it wasn't really working. So, but you know, that used to be a regular thing, and I feel like I've been doing good. I feel like I've been doing
You're
good.
getting better.
Whatever.
Small-
anyway, the
small
biological. Let's get back. Forgiveness and grace, Dave. Forgiveness and grace.
There's so much grace for you. There has to be.
There really is.
There has to be.
Oh, Dave, it shows so
or
much
this
grace to me.
podcast would be over.
Yes, 100%, 100%.
So much grace.
100%. So yes, I think for me, like, I don't know why science and the biological, and I think that kind of speaks like it speaks like to God. I feel like, and how He
Absolutely
wired us to, like, we have to forgive. He wired us to make us have to do that,
Yes.
or we're not going to be healthy. So I just think that's important to note, that obviously gratefulness, you know, we can say that all day, like, yeah, you got to be grateful. You got to be grateful. I know people probably hear that and be like, well, it's easier said than done. But please understand that it's what the role play that it's playing on your brain. You programming your brain. If you don't do it, you're programming your brain to think negatively all the time, which goes into what I want to talk about, you know, unforgiveness, what it's linked to: anxiety, depression, psychiatric disorders, mortality, physical health. Ultimately, which a lot of this stuff ultimately leads to heart disease.
Yeah.
And I'll see that on movies all the time where people have heart attacks because they stress.
I can't remember what.
And I guess I shouldn't laugh at that, but that's nuts. Like, if you really think about it, unforgiveness, because I wrote in here, essentially unforgiveness can kill you.
Yes. Because it leads to so many things, like you said. And the root of all that is unforgiveness is pretty much what you are holding on to and what you think somebody else deserves. That's what you're focused on.
You're focused on the other person.
You're focused on, well, this person did this to me, and I'm not going to stop until they get what they deserve. And God did not design us to be that way. If it was, Jesus would have never went to the cross.
And isn't that God's job anyway, when you think about it? Is it really our job to condemn someone of their sins and with their wrongdoings? It's really God's job. That's not really on us. So I think we trying to take on this role that we're not even equipped to do.
And that's the thing. We put ourselves in the position of God all the time.
All the time.
And we wonder why we are so stressed. We are so upset. And why we die early is because you keep putting yourself on a cross to die on when Jesus already did it.
Yeah.
Why do I need to keep? Jesus didn't. This is why Jesus went to the cross. This is why he died for our sins. The greatest act of forgiveness was him getting on that cross, because he didn't have to, but his assignment was to, so he can give birth to grace, so we can have eternal access to our Heavenly Father. And he died on the cross not just for us, but he died as us, because it should have been us on that cross.
Right.
But he took on the cross so we didn't have to.
Right.
Which is why it is the greatest example of forgiveness. We didn't deserve any of that.
Undeserved favor.
It's
grace.
So undeserving, but it's here.
Yeah.
And the fact that we have access to it is a beautiful thing. The thing is, you have to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
You have to get past your emotions, get past your feelings, because feelings are always temporary.
Right.
You mad now, but 10 years from now, you still going to be mad? And you think that's doing something to the other person.
Yeah.
And it's really affecting you.
Right. Right. So I wrote in here, I like what you said, because it's so crazy, because it's like we be connected somehow, because like you will say something, it's like, that's what I was just about to, like, that's what I wrote down, because you said it without saying it. I wrote in here that forgiveness is a gift from God. I feel like it's really a gift.
Yeah.
to be able to forgive. It's really a gift that we're given. And I just think that's important to note because it's just like, wow, when you really think about the power of forgiveness, God giving us this ability to forgive because it is hard. We're talking about this like it's ABC 1, 2, 3, and it's really not.
It's not easy.
You know,
please don't think we saying like this is an easy thing.
It's not.
It's so
But
hard.
I think it's we learn it from God, and we have to realize we learn it from God. It's a gift from God. We need God to pretty much be able to forgive, in my opinion. So I don't know. I just thought I didn't really have too much to say about that because I think you already pretty much said it. Him showing his forgiveness is pretty much like giving us the gift to forgive. And it's, it just speaks to God. It just speaks to, needing God in your life and understanding, why forgiveness is so important. Like he demonstrated it and how that helps us. But we turn the other way when it's really time to actually do it, for ourselves and for other people. But it's a gift from God and we should be doing it 100%.
It's honest. It's the greatest act of love. Yeah. It's to forgive.
Yeah.
The greatest acts of love is to sacrifice to forgive. You gotta forgive. If you love me, I might get in trouble for saying this, or some people may disagree. That's fine. That's why we're here.
That's why we're here, so people can disagree.
Sure.
Shut up.
Don't tell me you love me and tell me you forgive me and make me suffer for what I did. Because then I'm questioning, like, is your love unconditional?
Yeah. But I think people don't know how to forgive, though. And people don't know that they don't know how to forgive.
But I think people think there is a 1, 2, 3 step to forgiving, and it's not. Forgiveness looks different for everybody. The thing is, you have to learn what it looks like for you.
Yeah.
Because sometimes forgiveness is walking away from the thing. Sometimes it's having a discussion. You hurt me. I forgive you. But I am discontinuing this relationship, right? Yeah. And so I think it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you have to want to be free.
Yeah.
That's the base of it all. You have to want to be free from that thing.
Here's the thing, though, and that's kind of, we're doing it again, that's kind of where I'm getting at. I know for me, studying forgiveness and grace, so I studied a couple of doctors and all of that, and it talked about what unforgiveness looked like. Because we will get on here and say certain things, but I think it's important to note that not everybody know they need to forgive. Yeah. Not everyone know they're hurting from something. Not everyone knows this stuff. It's one thing if it's like I'm in a relationship, I got cheated on, and it's like, yeah, I need to forgive. Yes, that's cool. Right. But something could have happened to you when you was 3 years old, 5 years old, and 6 years old. Yes. You need to forgive. Absolutely. You have no idea. So I kind of want to jump into that. Like, what does unforgiveness look like? So according to certain professionals, bitterness is kind of like the root of it. And I want to talk about bitterness a little bit because, people may not know what that looks like. Because I know for me, I could be bitter and not know that I'm being bitter. I'm just being me, and I'm just thinking I'm just being me, and I'm just trying to justify my actions, whatever. But I may not know that. Technically, bitterness is disappointment at being treated unfairly. And I can honestly say I've been pretty disappointed about how I was treated my whole life, just different parts of my whole life. When I really sit back and think about it, obviously in the moment of me being bitter, I'm not thinking about that. But if I really take a step back and think about my life and be like, oh, okay, I probably didn't let that go. I probably didn't ever forgive that. I don't think I've ever even thought about how that affects me. So I just think that's important to understand that you might be bitter. You might be a little bitter. You might be holding on to a past trauma or a past experience or multiple past experiences where you were treated wrong.
Right.
And you're kind of holding on to that, and it's a subconscious thing. We have to understand that our brain works where you have this alertness, but you also have this part of your brain that you're not so alert, and it's more so like you just naturally doing something, because
Right.
we can grow up and be a certain way and think because we've grown up and we've been a certain way for 15 years, that's our normal, that's like how we're supposed to be, when really we never forgave.
No.
So I just thought that was me just reading like, dang, bitterness is really just you being, you still have these feelings about how you were treated.
Yes.
And it doesn't always feel like it's on the surface. Sometimes it comes up in certain situations. It's not always something that you can easily detect.
Right.
It's something you really have to sit back and think about. So that's kind of what I wanted to know about bitterness. It's not always super apparent. Sometimes you have to really sit back and think like, dang, am I bitter?
Yeah.
So they said that that's the root, and it produces all these other things, anger, addiction, intensity. I know
Yep.
I have really high intensity. Like I'll be doing my makeup and I'll be like super tense. Like, why am I super tense? Like, defensiveness. Oh my God. That is my middle name. Defensiveness. I am like, and when you think about it, your brain, that's kind of like a trauma, talking about trauma or whatever. But when you think about it, like, just say you haven't forgave, right? You went through something, you haven't dealt with it yet, right? So you're hurting. Maybe you don't really know you're hurting. You're not really conscious or aware of your hurting, but your brain knows this, right? So I think a lot of times when it comes to defensiveness and anger and intensity, it's really your brain trying to protect you from the hurt that's in there. You know what I'm saying? Like, trying to protect you from being hurt. So if you're triggered by something, you may not know that you're being triggered by something, but it's really just your brain. When you're being defensive, it's really just your brain trying to protect you from being hurt again.
Yeah. You go into defense
and
mode.
you don't really think like that. You know what I'm saying? You're just
Right.
thinking like, you're not right. But the whole time you can't be receptive to a person trying to tell you about yourself and things like that, because you're trying to protect this pain that you're not even aware that you have.
Right.
And I think that's why I wanted to kind of dwell on bitterness a little bit, because if that's really essentially the root of your defensiveness and your anger, you kind of have to understand where you're at as far as bitterness goes, and see if you really are still disappointed from things. And that's when you can kind of go back and be like, all right, well, that's where my defensiveness is coming from. That's where, you know what I'm saying? Like, of course I'm hurt, or of course I'm going to be defensive because I'm hurt from this, and I'm trying not to get hurt again like that. So
Right.
I don't want your insight because it hurts. You know what I'm saying? But it's not always a conscious thing, I guess. So I know for me, it's not conscious. It takes me to actually study forgiveness, study grace, study trauma, study God, to see these things about myself. I wouldn't necessarily be able to see these, things about myself if I wasn't studying this stuff. So that's why I kind of like to talk about the biology of this, because it could be something you're not really conscious of.
Or you never really know unless you're in relationships with people who do it, and who honestly do it in a healthy way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
I think it still needs to be identified, though.
Yeah. I think it still needs to be identified that is something you need to work on.
Yeah.
But there's another step to where it's like, okay, what's the root of all this?
Yeah.
Why? I don't know what it is. I just know I feel this way. Cool. Go talk to a therapist. Let's get to the root of the thing. Like,
yeah.
And usually most things, we already know this. Something happened in your childhood that has been walking with you throughout your entire life, and now it's affecting you in this way. And I think that once we learn how to get to the root of it, then we can truly be free. But first has to be, of course, acknowledgement of,
you have to acknowledge, like, okay, I'm bitter. It doesn't stop there, obviously, because why are you bitter? Now you got to go and figure that out. And that hurts within itself for me to admit, like, I'm a little bitter, or maybe a lot. You know what I'm saying? Like, that hurts me. So that's just like, that's a lot within itself. Like, that's a journey within itself to kind of figure it out. Like, why am I bitter? What happened? What's going on? What is these feelings that I'm trying to protect? Because being defensive and being angry. We just expressed how I hit, two people in a relationship with. Where is that anger coming from? You know what I'm saying? It's coming from unforgiveness is what I'm learning. So I think that's why I think this topic is so important, because I have here, can you ask God to forgive you if you haven't forgiven yourself?
I mean, you can ask him, but I mean, the Bible even says, until you learn to forgive, God cannot forgive you. And that's really, listen,
Ooh, if that don't touch your soul,
when I tell you,
I don't know what
when
does.
I tell you, when I first read, and really studied that verse, I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
let me forgive quick.
Right.
Because what I don't want, especially as a man of God, a believer who has a growing relationship with the Lord, I never want to hear my father say, I don't forgive you. I can't forgive you because you have unforgiveness. Men, and that is why I forgive, because I know I need it.
Right.
I'm not perfect. I'm not going to go through this life pretending like I'm perfect. I know at some point I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings. And it's not even intentional. Sometimes you just do it.
Exactly.
And I know I need forgiveness.
Right.
Which is why I'm like, I have to give it.
And that just speaks to how amazing God is, because when you think about it, it's not just God just sitting on his high horse like, yeah, I ain't forgiving you till you forgive yourself. We just talked about what unforgiveness does to your brain and to your body and to it kills you. So God is saving your life by telling you have to forgive. He's saving your life by saying, I can't forgive you unless you forgive.
Right.
Because if you are really seeking God's forgiveness, you will seek forgiving yourself.
Because it just means God wants you to live a life of abundance, which is a life of freedom.
A life of freedom,
God,
a life of
that's what
not
he
being
wants.
bitter, not being angry, not being defensive.
Yeah, he wants us to be free. That's all free.
Not have a heart attack.
Free
not having
in
depression.
him.
Not having anxiety.
and that's what that is, right?
Yeah.
To live a life of freedom is to live a life where God is happy, man. Like you are happy. And that's what abundance means. Like, I'm not letting everything from the past, I'm not letting past hurt, past pain, whoever did A, B, C, and D. It happened. However, I'm not going to let it have me.
Right.
You know, I'm not ignorant to what I've been through. I've been through it. Yep, I did it. Most, if not all of it, was my fault. However, I've been forgiven. I've forgiven everybody else. I'm free, and I'm gonna live in that freedom.
Yeah, and I think it's just important to note that we could talk about forgiving other people. We could talk about childhood trauma and forgiving other people, but you have to forgive yourself.
Forgive
too.
you. I'm telling you, that's a whole nother level of forgiveness.
Yes.
You gotta forgive yourself.
And what's crazy is I wrote that, like, can you ask God for forgiveness, or can you really, without forgiving yourself? Because I do it all the time. I didn't know that. And that's why this is so important, because I'm realizing that I've been unforgiving. I didn't know that. Right. So that's a journey within itself, for me to be like, because I pray to God all the time for forgiveness, but I don't pray for him to help me see how I can forgive myself.
Yeah.
I don't put the priority on forgiving myself. So I skip a whole step. You know what I'm saying? People talk about, you can't pray without doing works too. Like, you can't just pray and go sit down and be like, all right, cool. You still got to put in the work of the things that you're praying for. And I think we forget that. Like, oh yeah, I'm going to repent my sins, but I'm really asking for God forgiveness. I'm not really repenting my sins to say, I forgive myself for them. Am I really making a point to say I forgive myself? Before I even come to God and ask for his forgiveness, am I looking in the mirror and saying, listen, you're worthy of God's forgiveness. Yeah. You're forgiving yourself. I don't think I've ever made that a priority, one, because I really didn't know I needed forgiveness. I was living in an unforgiving way. But two, I don't think I ever looked at it like that. Like, I need God's forgiveness, but God's forgiveness is very dependent on how you forgive yourself, or if you're able to forgive yourself. And I think that's just dope.
Forgiveness is the reflection of nobody else is holding me back but me. Like, yeah, they did that to me, but it's me that I need to forgive. It's me that's holding me back from going to the next step of my development in my character, in my life, in my relationships. I got to forgive so I can free myself with the help of the Lord, of course. And I can't keep pointing at everybody else. Well, they did this to me, and this person did that, and this person did that. Yes, they did do it.
Right.
But at some point, you got to forgive you and let you go. Because a lot of people blame themselves for what happened to them.
Mm-hmm.
But if I wasn't at that party, or if I wasn't at that house, or if I
every
wasn't
time.
in this situation, and it's just like, let that go.
Right.
And it's hard to let it go. I
Right.
get
It's
it.
like it's so easy to say, let that go.
It's easy. It's easy to say, let that go. But it's so hard to do because we are looking for the validation of our feelings. And nobody's saying your feelings are validated.
Yeah.
But what's also validating is also being free from all that.
Right.
Like, yes, it happened, but I cannot let this hold me back from being who God has called me to be,
Yeah.
being the best version of myself.
Yeah. And that's exactly what it's doing, right? Like we know that. We see that. We just talked about that, all the things that comes from us being unforgiving.
Yeah.
It's all negative feelings when you think about it. It's nothing but negative feelings that you're feeding your brain, and we wonder why we end up in bad relationships, or we end up picking the wrong person, or we end up in situations and we end up, continuing our trauma and creating more traumas and creating more bad experiences. Wouldn't it make sense that happens if you're only feeding yourself negative feelings? If you don't have unforgiveness, if you don't have grace for people, that's not doing anything but hurting you. Because if you can't have grace, if you can't have forgiveness, then all you're doing is being negative. You're being angry. You're being bitter. All these things that comes with unforgiveness. It's just nothing but, I just can't stress this enough because I'm speaking to myself as well. It's nothing but negativity on your brain.
And it's really a reflection of you and where you are. Because if you one of them people who are like, well, this is why I ain't got no friends, or this is why this, and this is why that, and ain't nobody real, stop it.
Trauma.
You are there at this point because you want to be.
Yeah.
And the thing is, your trauma gives you the attention that you want.
Yeah.
And you think that's freedom, and it's not. Let me tell you what true freedom is. True freedom is they can talk about me, they can say whatever they want, and I'm still going to live my best life.
My feelings are still going to be positive. My feelings are my optimism is still, I'm going to practice my optimism. I'm not going to practice the fact that I have these feelings from these bad things that happen.
Or it's it's like I'm angry, but I'm not going to let this anger make me do something I'm going to regret.
Right.
That's what it really is. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be pissed off. What's not okay is what you allow that emotion to make you do.
Right.
So that's what freedom is.
Yeah.
I'm angry. Don't get me wrong. And I'm laid back. I'm chill. And I'm pissed off. But I'm not going to let what you did stoop me to a level that I've already outgrown.
Yeah. And I think the way you get to that point is practicing grace within yourself, practicing grace for other people, because that allows you to think about positivity. So if you're constantly feeding your mind with positivity, it makes sense, that anger is going to deplete a little bit, or anger is going to be less effective because you're teaching your brain all of these positive thoughts by being optimistic and having grace and having forgiveness. You're teaching your brain these positive feelings. So of course, the negative feelings ain't gonna have that much effect on you anymore because your brain is programmed now to have this positivity. So I think that's the best part about forgiveness to me.
And let me say this. Forgiveness is not the absence of consequence. Forgiveness is not the absence of consequence. If you did something, just because I forgive you, don't mean that the consequence is not deserving.
Right. Yeah.
So what am I saying?
You
Let's
made your bed, you
say-
gotta lay in it.
Right.
Essentially.
Let's say, somebody, we were talking about children earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you touch my child,
Shut up, Dave. Oh my gosh, why am I laughing about this? It's
If-
so funny.
if you touch my child,
Oh,
don't get me
God.
wrong. Whatever happens afterwards, you absolutely deserve that consequence. And I can forgive you all day long. Because remember, it has nothing to do with you. The forgiveness has nothing to do with you. However, my reaction, because I'm allowed to react. Don't get me wrong. You touch my child. Well, I don't know.
I'm on the fence about that. I can 100% say absolutely. I don't know if I shouldn't speak this on my life, but I don't know if I'll heal that much
No.
where I don't do anything about something happening to my child. But
that's
if we're talking about forgiveness in a way,
But that's the thing,
we can't say that it's okay at the same time.
But what I'm saying is, like I said, forgiveness is not the absence of consequence.
Yeah.
If you did it,
But don't you think that's kind of playing God a little bit for us to do the retaliation? I thought we were supposed to. That's playing God when you think about it. I'm
but
not
what I'm
saying
saying,
I'm
I'm not saying.
convince you to not do it.
But what I'm
healing,
saying
not
is,
healed, duh.
what I'm saying
yeah.
is, there are some things that will cause a quick reaction. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah.
But the consequence is the consequence.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about it is, well, let me do another one, right? If somebody broke into my car
Okay.
and they got caught by the police, you're going to jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going.
I can forgive you, but you want to jail.
I can forgive you, but you're going to jail.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like consequence is going to happen no matter what. Like, we have to understand that. I mean, you reap what you sow. I mean, if you
Yes.
know that, we don't really
absolutely
need
reap
to
what you
do
sow.
anything to retaliate anything because people are going to get what they give out. People are going to get it back tenfold. God is going to take care
And
of
let me
that.
tell you,
100%.
Let me tell you, I have never had to get revenge on anybody.
You
Ever.
don't.
I'm telling you.
You really
never, I never, people that have done things to me, I never had to get revenge. Because when I tell you God got my back, I wanted to. Don't get me wrong.
Of course you do.
I wanted to.
We're human.
But I've never had to seek revenge on anybody who has done me wrong. Thanks be to God. That's how I know God is real.
Yeah.
Because the thing
Because this is not a human thing. Like, human thing is retaliation. It's a God thing to not retaliate.
It goes beyond your human intellect.
Yes, it really does.
To really understand the true aspect of forgiveness.
And that's why I say forgiveness is a gift from God, because you can't really practice forgiveness without God full intervention. And but before God can intervene, you got to forgive yourself. And I think that's just
Yes.
important to note. So I have one here. Is there a point of eating healthy and exercising if you haven't forgave?
Wait, say that again.
Is there a point of living this external healthy life? You're eating right, you're exercising, you're doing all of these things, but you're unforgiving. And we talked about how unforgiving is linked to mortality. So are you really doing anything for yourself because you're eating broccoli if you don't forgive? And this is me talking to me. When I come up with these questions, I'm talking to me. Like, Jazzy, what's the point of the exercise? And what's the point of you making sure you hit the gym if you can't forgive?
There was a woman who lived to be, I think she's still alive. She's like 100, 104, 105. They asked her, what is it that keeps you going? Like, what do you think it is that has made you live this long?
Mm-hmm.
She said forgiving and staying out of people's business.
That's God's wisdom, 100%.
She said forgiveness and minding my own business.
Absolutely.
And that woman never worked out, ate what she wanted to eat, all this stuff. I'm pretty sure she was mindful and everything, but
Yeah.
I don't care how externally healthy you are.
Okay.
If your mind is not right,
Because it's linked to cardiovascular disease. Unforgiveness is linked to heart disease. And think about when you work out, what you're working on, your heart, your cardio. You know what I'm saying? Are you really working on your cardio if you still have hate in your heart? No.
I heard a beautiful example. One of my favorite motivational speakers is Les Brown, and he told a story about how this woman who had cancer spoke positively to herself to the point where she no longer had cancer anymore.
Yes.
Because
in my research, they have definitely mentioned that.
her
that people
reaction to the cancer was, okay, I have cancer, but my cancer doesn't have me. So I'm going to speak positively, and I'm going to move in this positive way and act like my life still has worth, to the point where cancer has no place in me anymore. And that's what she did. And it's the same thing.
She became cancer free, or
became cancer free.
I believe that. I believe that 100%. I believe we downplay how much our past hurts and how it affects us. I think we downplay that a lot on our health. That's why
Absolutely.
I wanted to make sure I bring that up, because it's like we talk about health all day, but we only talk about it to the extent of eating healthy and exercising. We don't go in depth to understand that our mental health plays probably a bigger role in our lifespan and our health.
Ooh.
Because it's linked to a lot of physical, yes, eating bad is linked to it as well. So just think about the average person. They're not even eating right, and they're unforgiving.
Right.
We wonder why lifespan is going down and down and down and down and down.
And y'all think it got something to do with the economy. No. It has everything to do with your mental. But I just thought of another example. Mama Alice. Mama Alice is my godfather's mother, John Gray, Pastor John Gray.
Love her.
I call him Dad though, because of
Period.
course. Mama Alice has stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctor said there was nothing they could do, and it takes her to tell the story. And this was probably about, I want to say 7 years ago, I think. And her response to when she had cancer, she was like, okay. Now, of course, my godfather, a lot of us are like, man, that's crazy. Like, we sad.
Right.
And she was like, and I think if I'm correct, my goddad asked her, why aren't you like sad? Why aren't you? She was like, because now I know God will heal me.
Right.
And she lived her life for a week. A week. Let me tell you, this is how good God is, right? And this goes to when you live this positive life of servanthood and forgiveness and caring for yourself. And that woman was cancer-free in 7 days.
I believe it.
In 7 days.
I believe it.
Day 1, she had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. They said she had 6 months. And in 1 week, she was cancer-free.
I believe it. I do feel like, and even if you just take little signs, like sometimes I feel like my stress levels are so high, my stomach hurts. Like I get pains in my stomach from stress. Like your body will tell you, like you have to be aware. And I think, that's the whole point of us having these conversations, because sometimes we be in pain and we thinking, oh, I need to detox and all of this. And yes, you might need to do that. But if you holding on to anger and pain and hurt, that's not going to work.
And pay attention to all of this when life has slowed down, right? Like for me, I notice something is wrong, like right before I go to sleep or right before I lay in the bed. Because throughout my day, I'm doing so much stuff, right? But the moment I lay down, and I feel like something is off, my body is trying to tell me something, that's when I'm listening to my body the most.
Right.
Because everything's slowed down.
Yeah.
That's the moment I can focus in on me. And there was a
The power in silence, I think,
Yeah,
is what
and
that
it's-
comes from.
right, and I would lay down, and my heart rate would go up so quick. And I had a doctor's visit probably about a month ago now. And I was talking to her. She was like, "How you?" She was like, "You look healthy. Like all the tests came back clear. You gained a little weight, but
Yeah.
I said, yeah, but there's this one thing where I would lay down and my heart rate would go up like I'm trying to catch my breath."
Mm.
And she was like, "Have you been drinking enough water?" And I just looked at her like, "No."
Probably need a little hydrogen, a little oxygen.
No. she was like, "Start drinking some more water and watch your diet, and everything will be fine."
Mm-hmm.
But if I had never slowed down
Yeah.
and listened to my body,
Right.
and, I never would have
Right.
been able to tell my doctor
Yeah.
what is going on.
Right.
And I think it's the same thing with unforgiveness and things like
Yeah.
that. Oftentimes, we don't even know we are dealing with
It's
this
all
stuff
linked together.
because we
haven't sat down and
haven't sat down and actually taken time for us
right.
to slow down. Like, why do I feel this? My body is freaking out.
Right.
What is going on?
Right.
Probably because there's something internally going on that you need to deal
Right.
with.
And that speaks to like addiction. Like that makes me think of addiction, how that's a form of unforgiveness, or that's a product of bitterness, which is the root of unforgiveness, right? And that can make sense, right? You just talking about that, like, oh, why do I feel this way? If you're constantly addicted to something, you may not even know that you feel that way because you're putting toxins in your body that kind of alleviates those feelings, even though it doesn't really alleviate the feelings, but it makes you think that you're alleviating them.
Fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's important to understand that sometimes our addictions, probably all the time, our addictions is 100% going to prevent us from being able to forgive because we're not even going to be able to feel the things we need to feel to understand what we need to do after that. You know what I'm saying? So addiction is important. Understanding that you might be addicted to something and how that is how that is blocking you from being able to identify feelings that you need to alleviate yourself from. That's important to know. That's important to know for myself. I don't know who else needed to hear that, but addiction is probably bigger than what we think. We talk about coping and like trauma and all of that, but the fact that it's keeping you from actually growing because the feelings that you need is not there because you keep hiding them through these distractions and through these addictions. That's powerful to me.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always a root. There's always a root.
Yeah.
It's
deep.
You have the trauma, but what's stopping you from getting to the healed version of you? Like, there's something here in the middle of all this.
Right.
Like, that happened. I'm here, and all hell is breaking loose. But why?
Right.
And so until we figure out what the why is and get to that root, but you got to want it.
Right.
You got to want it for
You have to first
yourself.
acknowledge that you are a product of unforgiveness. You have to acknowledge that your anger is coming from unforgiveness, that your defensiveness and all the things that we discuss, you have to be able to acknowledge, like, okay, what am I defensive about? You know, it's not as easy to be like, oh, I need to forgive. Sometimes you just got to take it step by step. Like, where is the things that's causing the negative feelings? Where is that coming from? And, and then go from there. Where is that coming from? And then where is that coming from? It's a journey. And yes, this type of stuff excites me, man. Like, just thinking about it. Cause as I'm talking, I'm just thinking about my life. Like, I just be flashing back and I'd be like, you know what, Jesse? I'm talking to me 100%. With everything, I can relate to every single piece of thing that I'm saying here as far as unforgiveness is concerned. But I be in the gym and I'll eat right and I'll do all of this. But I wonder why my stomach hurt.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
Or why you got headaches all the time.
Why my stomach hurt.
Or why you always in pain. Because there's a part of you, like, you look good externally, but internally, you a hot mess.
Yeah.
And it's usually because you are dealing with some sort of unforgiveness, there's something that has you in a chokehold
Yeah.
that is stopping you from being good here.
Yeah.
Like, because working out could probably be the thing that's distracting you from
Yeah, it's a
going here.
coping.
Yeah, like, and don't get me wrong,
It
working
could be a
out's
good
great.
coping.
It
It
could
could
be-
be a good
it could
coping,
be
but it's
a-
a stepping stone. It's not
Right.
the answer.
But don't allow it to be a distraction from
Right.
doing the internal work.
100%.
We can't talk today. We are
We doing this
Woo.
though.
we talking good, but some of these words is tripping us up. It's okay.
I could not say biological. Biological.
Something.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You got this though, Dave.
But it's funny because I remember somebody had asked me, Dave, why does nothing bother you? Why are you so unbothered by stuff? Why are you so calm? Because I'm not letting stuff hold me back from being the best version of myself. Like,
You know why I think it's so calm? You're so calm
why?
because you have God in your life. I think people
Absolutely.
will talk about God, but do we really have God in our life? Do we really allow God to change us? Do we really allow God to interfere with our decisions? Are we only going
Yeah.
to God for the things that we want? Are we not seeking what he wants for us?
And
You know
that's
what
the
I'm saying?
thing.
And I think that you
We can sit here
do
and talk.
that.
We can sit here and talk about God all day.
Yeah.
All day. But until you walk this thing
Yeah.
out for real,
Yeah.
then you will never, nobody will really truly ever believe it.
Yeah.
It's like, man, it's something different about you.
Yeah.
Like, it's something so calm about you.
Yeah.
So there's something about your presence when you walk in a room
Yeah. It's just calm.
and things are just
Peaceful.
peaceful.
If
Because,
that don't
man,
speak to what God is doing for you,
I'm
I don't
telling
know
you,
what does.
let
And
me-
you can't get there without forgiving yourself. Let's
and
be
that's
clear.
and that's the thing, man. I'm telling y'all, this dude named Jesus. I'm so serious.
Okay.
This dude named Jesus is the real deal. And
For
I'm
sure.
not, I ain't even trying to be that deep, but I'm telling you, your
Man.
life is so different. The outlook on life is different when you really walk and talk with Jesus, man.
Yeah.
Like, when the Holy Spirit is really in you,
Yeah.
you talk to people different.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying life gets easy. That is not what
No.
I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you do deal with the hardships, your outlook on the hardships, the way you move in the hardships is different because I know God is going to provide. I have too much evidence of his goodness in my life and what he's
Yeah.
done for me and what he's going to keep doing for me. I'm not perfect. I get it wrong all the time.
Okay.
All the time. But that's where the grace comes in.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying take his grace for granted. I'm not. What I'm saying is there is this beautiful thing about when the presence of God is with you and you just are at peace.
Yeah.
And that's really all we want.
Yeah.
Is that true peace. And you only going to get that if you really know this man named Jesus. Like
Yeah.
he's so dope. He's
Yeah.
so
And
dope.
it's no way to do. You can't. We wouldn't even know what forgiveness was if it wasn't for God. So this topic alone
Right.
is wrapped around God. It's
Absolutely.
completely wrapped around your relationship with God. And that's kind of what I want to jump into to kind of like conclude here. Talking about the how, you know what I mean? We talked about why forgiveness is important, but I kind of want to talk about the how. And I know that it may look different for most people, but I feel like the root of the how when it comes to forgiveness is wrapped up in God. And I wish I would have had the scriptures here. But I did do some research in the Bible about forgiveness, and I didn't write down the scriptures, and I should have. But God tells us to pray for people that hurt you. And a lot of people may look at that and say, well, what am I, what's the point? Like, am I praying for them to be a good person? Like, what am I doing? But really, what you should be doing is praying for their revelation of what they did to you. You know what I'm saying?
And also you're praying that God would pierce their heart so they could start living right, so they don't do to others what they did to you.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to them, you praying for the revelation, like just understanding that they need to know that they hurt you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you told them or whatever, but praying that God reveals that to them. You know what I'm saying? That's going to give them a different experience. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? For that to be revealed, like, dang, I really messed up.
And there's also responsibility on your end too.
For sure.
Have that conversation too. Like,
Yeah.
and if for me, and this is something I'm working on. Usually with me, it takes one conversation. Like, if you ain't got it after one conversation, there's nothing else for me to do. However, the thing about that is, if I say I love you for real, and I want you in my life forever,
Mm-hmm.
if I love you, hey man, you're doing that thing again that we talked about.
Yeah.
Hey, let's figure out what it is.
Yeah.
Let's work on. I forgive you, and it hurt, but I love you enough to come to you and try to work this thing out. Like, what's going on in your life to where it's a recurring thing, right?
Right.
But there's a spiritual aspect to it too. Like, God, I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Like, this is something only you can do.
Yeah.
I'm just a vessel, but you got to intervene in this somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think just having the desire, like, I'd be very proud of myself if I can get to a point, which I really want to. This is what I'm seeking, to get to a point where my forgiveness looks like this, where I'm praying for you. I'm praying that you see the hurt and pain for your betterment, and it could be for me too, because maybe that'll initiate a conversation that needs to have, you know what I'm saying, between you and I, or maybe that will initiate you just not hurting someone else or whatever.
Right.
To me, that's really the point. You know what I'm saying? Because we all need it. So just think about it. I hurt somebody, just to think if they prayed for me. You know what I'm saying? And if we were all doing that.
Right. And most people
that would probably help a lot when it comes to how pain influences our behaviors and actions and things like that, because we're not really being revealed the hurt and pain that we're putting on other people.
Right.
That's not really a focus to kind of like, okay, I want them to see this. I want God to reveal this to them. I want God to heal their heart too. You know, because hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
So when you're praying for them, you're really, yes, you're letting go. But I really think, and that also speaks to, I wrote on here, speak well instead of speak bad. And that goes back to the wordplay, and the biology of your brain and how you are. And that's why this is so good, because even when I go and study the Bible and I study the biology, it's like the same thing. It's like they are linked together. It's a reason God says pray for people and overcome evil with good. That's why I have on here, overcome evil with good. Like, we know that's in the Bible, but we have to understand why that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Biologically, it makes sense, because if we don't overcome evil with good, we overcome evil with evil. Guess what we're doing? We're what is it called? We're creating more and more negative energy. We're creating more and more negative experiences.
Yeah.
How we're going to heal? How are we going to really forgive if everything around us is negative? Everything that we're doing is negative. So we have to overcome evil with good. We have to do that. We have to speak positivity. We have to speak well on others, even the ones that hurt us. We have to do that, because if we speak bad, we're hurting ourselves. We already talked about that. So I just think that was a blessing for me to study, forgiveness biblically, and to see how it completely directly relates to how it physically impacts us. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was a blessing for me. I'm like, what? That makes sense. Overcome evil with good, because we talk about that all the time. People, like Malcolm X used to hate that. He used to hate pray for your enemy. He hated that, but there's a biological reason God says that.
I'm telling you, it is so freeing, because you really think I'm praying for you because you deserve it.
Right. It's undeserved favor.
It's nothing,
but you're doing it for yourself because you need that.
It has nothing to do with what you and I deserve.
Yeah.
It has everything to do with the fact that true freedom comes from that. And I want to be free forever. I don't want to just be free. I want to stay free.
Right.
Like, I don't want to live my life in chains and bondage, because that is not the life God called me to live.
Right.
So as much as I got to get past my flesh
Yeah.
and my emotions,
Mm-hmm.
and do I want to pray for you? No, I don't.
Right.
But I am called to do that because I lay down my flesh and I let my spirit lead me to the fact that, you know what? I'm going to show the love of God. I'm going to pray for you instead of punching you in the face.
Forgiveness, I wrote in here, basically what you just said. Forgiveness is obedience to God.
Yeah.
Think about it. We know that we have to be obedient to God to receive blessings from him.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to be blessed? How are you going to ask God for blessings if you're not forgiving? If you're not forgiving, if you're not being obedient, the audacity of you to ask him for anything.
Yeah.
You should be. Forgiveness is obedience. It's not about what you want. It's not about what you deserve. It's about you being obedient to what God says. And we already talked about even taking God out the picture, which we can't technically, but even if you take God out the picture, this makes sense to do. And I think it's more of a blessing to me to know, like, God is in all of this. You know what I'm saying? Like, anything that I can learn scientifically, I can go to the Bible and get that same information. And I just think that's amazing.
And the thing about it is,
that is amazing.
A lot of people try to argue logic with what God says. And I'm telling you, it's really not even a competition.
It's not.
Y'all think
it's all derived from what he created.
y'all think God is in competition with this? No, he's the creator.
Right? When we talk about what unforgiveness looks like, the bitterness, the anger, and all of that, how that goes to your physical health and all that, God created all that. You think that's a coincidence that you die from stress, that you can get a heart attack from stress? That's not a coincidence.
No.
When he specifically tells you need to forgive. He specifically tells you that. And we know what unforgiveness looks like. That's not a coincidence.
Right.
It's just not. So I have here, and this is kind of how, because I like to will it back to relationships, and I think I was watching a podcast. I don't know what I was watching. I can't remember. I don't know if it's on YouTube or whatever. Somebody said, I can't remember who it was, but he said he had to realize that he can't love while he's hurting. I think it was a married couple, and they was talking about how they healed from their trauma and they had to do some forgiveness and all of that, and they went through a lot together, and he was realizing, like, I can't when I'm in the middle of whatever the aftermath is of me being hurt, I can't love. And I can honestly, I don't know if that's everybody's experience, but my last relationship, absolutely that's what that was. While he was hurting, he couldn't love me. He could not love me while hurting. And it was just, I didn't know, I wasn't really looking at it like that. But I think that's important to understand, like, even if that's, not your experience or whatever, but I think that's important to understand that may be what's happening, where this person is hurting so much, loving, and he said something on that video I was watching. He said something important. He said, when you're hurting, you're selfish. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's all about you. It's all about the pain that you're going through. Like, how can you love somebody if you're just constantly concerned about the pain? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be. I feel like we need to have grace when someone is hurting.
Yeah.
So I think that just speaks to how we can be better partners in relationships.
And that's the thing. Like, you also don't get to tell me when, where, what time, how, while I'm hurting.
Yeah.
Especially if you're the one who hurt me.
Right.
Of course.
Especially.
Now, I don't want to say I can't love you. It's going to be very hard to.
Yeah. When I say love you, I don't mean like the feeling goes away. I think like
to show
actions.
Up.
Yeah.
It's hard to show up for the person who stabbed me.
Yeah. And even if it's not somebody that, like, say, like I know in my last relationship, he lost 2 important people in his life. So the pain that he was getting from that grief, it kept him from loving me 100%.
Right.
The love was still there, and I had to be intelligent enough, what I'm doing now. If I knew then what I knew now, I would have reacted to it differently, because, you would think like, oh, it's common sense. He's grieving, but certain things, you don't really realize that. You know what I'm saying? Like, is it really and then you got to think too, like, is it really possible to to love somebody? When I say love, I mean the verb love somebody when you are hurting. And I just don't think so. And I think
but
that's
the thing
important to
is,
understand.
people think love is a feeling, and it's not. I love you. Love is what you do in spite of feelings.
Yes.
And it's like, unlearn this whole love, this toxic teaching of love.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, I'm hurt
Right.
and I love you, but it's hard for me. It's going to be hard for me to show up.
Yeah.
I can't show up the way you want me to right now.
Right.
Like, and the thing about it is, you have to know and have grace for your partner
Right.
when they're in that space.
Right. And
Because-
understand that it's almost like it's physically impossible. So it's, some of us, we get this, we are so pessimistic with everything else in our life. But when we get in relationships, we act like our partner should be able to do everything and anything. Like, you love me, you should be able to do this, you should be able to do that.
Because we think,
but you can't.
people think they're marrying a superhuman.
For sure.
There's a song that says, you're living in a fantasy land if you think I can be Superman.
Right.
Like, I don't want to date. I don't want to be married. I don't want Superwoman.
Right.
Mm-mm.
Right.
No.
Because I feel like that's not genuine, right?
It's not real.
It's not real.
You want.
That's a red flag if you're just this perfect. Nah, I need to see.
Or
I need to see you hurt. I need to see you emotional. I need to see something else.
If you think I'm going to show up in every single way, every single time, the same way, every single time, it's not.
And I think
true.
I struggle with that. I struggle with that consistency and understanding that people change and evolve, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they don't love you.
Right.
I didn't really understand that. Now I do. And studying all these things is really comforting me to understand, like, wow, like, I had these expectations of, like, what love is supposed to look like or whatever, and not really realizing all the factors that can kind of prohibit a person from loving you as far as the verb is concerned.
Right.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I just think that's super important to know in relationships, because just give your partner a chance to be heard about something. Give them an give them what they need, as far as for the pain that they're going through. And I think that speaks to you and how you love. You're not really a loving person if you can't see that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had to take accountability. Like, dang, I'm asking for love, but am I giving it? I don't think I am. I think I'm being selfish, because I'd have no grace when it comes to you and the things that you need because of the pain that you're going through.
Right.
That speaks to me not actually exercising love or demonstrating love, how love should be demonstrated, how God demonstrates it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think the guy, John Gray, he explained that so well. When you said love is not a feeling, it's what you do in spite of your feelings. And he talks about Jesus as an example. He was like, you think it felt good for him to be nailed on that cross?
Right.
Sometimes love feels like that.
Yep.
There's a reason God did all of that. All of this stuff matters. You know what I'm saying? It's not just he died on the cross. Think about the whole process.
It was
the whole process.
There was pain.
And how it was a demonstration of love. And then we get in these relationships and we say, oh, well, love looks like this. When God showed us a whole different way love looks like, which we already talked about.
The crazy thing is, like, there was pain before the cross. There was pain during the cross. And for some, there was pain after the cross. Which is why love is not a feeling.
Right.
Love hurts.
It's like a behavior, for real. It's like a choice, really. It's like a choice.
I mean, and that's all life is everyday choices.
For sure. Why do you think people choose hate over love? And I'm going to end with that.
A lot of people choose hate
because we
over
talking
love.
about how unforgiving and all these bad negative things that come from it, all these negative experiences that keeps building on top of each other from all the byproducts of bitterness and all of these things that happen from us unforgiving, really having this hate. People will hear this. You know, there's people probably listening right now. There's probably people that's going to listen to this.
Yeah.
And they still going to choose hate. Why do you think that?
I think people choose hate because they haven't realized let me start over. I think people choose hate because that's the popular thing to do. It's easy to do that.
Because it's easier.
I don't know who convinced people to think hate is easier. I don't know where we got that from. I don't know.
I know, right?
I
That's
really
why
want
it's
to
a
do
question.
I really want to do the research on that.
Okay.
Where like it's
Where did
easier
that come from?
to have a negative feeling than it is a positive feeling. Really got to study that.
Is that our flesh? That could be like our flesh.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We choose hate because we're kind of what is it called? We're kind of, I don't know what the word is. It's like we're kind of bound to it, or kind of like
are we wired that way?
Wired that way?
I don't think so. But I think given the totality of everything, especially in America, for black people, it's easy for us to get angry. It's easier for us. If one Karen shows up, we immediately hate all white people for like 10 seconds. It's true.
Yeah.
We watch one movie where a white person is
I
being
can watch
racist.
Roots right now and be ready to smack the next white person I see.
We watched that movie American Skin.
Yeah,
I couldn't look at a white person.
I didn't like that movie.
I couldn't look at a white person for
I hated that
48
movie.
hours.
Yeah.
I couldn't talk to him, couldn't be around him. But I think it's so easy to hate people. It's so easy to look at people through the lens of pain. And I honestly think this is the reason why, because you're going to go through more hardships than you are positive things. I think that's why.
You're going to go through more hardships to choose love over hate?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is why it's easy to choose hate over love, right? Because life is full of hardships more than it is positivity.
Yeah.
That's just life. I mean,
understanding that, and that's kind of the name of the game for real when you think about it.
It's the name of the game. Like
you're gonna face problems. You have to learn how to be happy with that, with your issues.
And you're gonna face more problems,
more and more,
than you will solutions.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so easy to choose hate over love. But I'm telling you, you got to put in the work to a point where you've practiced it so much.
Yeah.
To where it's second nature to you now.
Yeah.
And it takes work.
And it takes
God, so much work.
It takes us being intentional about having God to interfere in our life, because when you think about it,
yeah,
that just kind of gave me an aha moment. Why do people practice hate over love? Because they don't practice their relationship with God. They don't pursue God. They don't pursue God. They don't let God interfere in their life. They don't invite the Holy Spirit in. I think that is why we choose hate. Without God, of course we're going to choose hate.
Or even if you don't believe in God, on this podcast we do.
Right.
God bless you. Amen. Or most people believe in a higher power, something.
Yeah. They
submit to that. If your higher power is not even rooted in love,
yeah,
then there's something you have to submit to.
Yeah.
That challenges you to love people in spite of how you feel.
Yeah, I guess for me, I'm not speaking to anyone that doesn't believe in God, because at the end of the day, that's where forgiveness comes from. So I'm sorry to say, that's where it comes from. It comes from God. So I can't talk about forgiveness without God, and it's going to be the God that I serve. So
absolutely.
If I'm going to talk on this topic, as for me, Jazzy Grove, forgiveness is rooted in God. And that's the end of the conversation. I don't have an external explanation for that, unfortunately. I think that's where it comes from.
There are other religions out there who also believe in love and all that.
You could take it with a grain of salt, and
I'm just saying on this
apply
podcast,
it to however you want to apply it.
we
But I'm gonna say what I said, and I'm gonna
we
stand on
believe
that.
that God is the way, the truth, and the life.
Absolutely.
You only get through Him, through the Son Jesus.
Yeah,
That's
it's
what
not,
we believe here.
It's not to convince anyone or anything. You use that however you want to use it, but
Yeah.
however it's gonna be said is how it's gonna be said, and I'm gonna stand on
The point
what
of
I
it, the
said.
point of it all is you have to just know how to forgive,
Yeah,
so you can be free.
for sure.
That's what it is.
So you can be free, and not just be free, but
Forgiveness.
healthy, and so that you can live long,
Forgiveness
because
and
it's
grace.
directly related to you dying. It's directly related to when I say directly related, you guys can do the research yourself. It is directly related to cardio health.
You're not
To
gonna
not forgive.
You're not gonna make
You
it.
can't work out. You can't eat as much broccoli and spinach as you want to eat. If you're not taking care of the hate and the forgiveness, you can still have health issues that is linked to death.
You're not gonna make it through this.
So
life.
I think that's the most important thing to note. If we're just talking about health, forgiveness is 100% a part of it. You cannot be healthy without forgiveness.
You're not gonna make it through this life
And I'm talking
without
to
forgiveness.
myself.
Without forgiveness
You're not.
and grace,
You're not.
you're not going to make it through this life. You need it to be the best version of yourself, the healthiest version of yourself, because that's what you deserve.
You deserve it for yourself, and you deserve it for other
We
people.
all deserve that.
We all deserve to forgive ourselves.
But it starts
and
with
to
you.
forgive others.
It's a
Yes.
choice every day.
Yes.
Every day.
Yes.
Great conversation.
Yes, it was.
Great conversation.
Woo, woo.
Next segment.
Absolutely.
Did that really happen?
Because-
And I found
Listen, your stories. Listen, we gonna have to talk about this.
I
'cause what
found
you
this
about to
joint
say?
last night. And when I tell you it has weakened me. Weakened. You hear me? All right, here we go.
Uh-huh.
A man, this happened in 2021. A man spikes his goodbye cake at work with laxatives. Chaos ensues as people ish everywhere.
Why do you always come up with these weirdo stories?
This is a true story.
I
So-
hate it.
Ben Waller of Houston, Texas, worked the corporate side of oil and gas industry for 20 years. He made a lot of money and wanted to retire early to enjoy the fruits of his labor. And then he was also glad to be rid of his coworkers, who he said, you know, they were very shallow and everything like that.
Uh-huh.
Pretty much didn't like him. As a typical of any goodbye party for an oil and gas employee, they put out all the stops to say goodbye to Ben Waller. There was a full table of barbecue, meats, all that stuff, desserts, everything. And there was this huge cake and everything.
Oh God.
Um,
Apparently full of laxatives.
so
First of all,
weeks before,
forgiveness and grace, because I'd be ready to fight somebody. Like, what?
weeks before leading up to this, he wanted to leave in a way that nobody would forget him. So he spiked the cake with laxatives. Over 10 boxes of X-Lax went into that cake. And so stupid. So 120 pieces of cake were given out to all the employees. And within an hour,
It ain't enough stalls in the world.
over 100 people,
Where did they go poop? Because it's not
Over-
enough stalls.
over 100 people had uncontrollable diarrhea. And it was everything
So
this
nothing
man had
happened in the
hoped for.
job that he wanted to like retaliate. Like he
So
just really
it
wanted
had-
people to remember him. That's nuts.
No, he said that there was, he had this idea, and the company has said they were on board with this idea to go green. And he thought, he was meeting with people and to pretty much make the earth healthier. So he was
I'm trying to connect the dots.
So what the company was like, yeah, we're for it. And then coming to find out they lied. So his way of getting back to them
Okay. Retaliation.
was-
See,
retaliating. And
he ain't had no grace.
They said people were running around with poop running down their legs.
I bet. Because there ain't enough stalls in the
They
world.
were even pooping in the trash cans and in the elevators.
Gotta go. You gotta go.
This man got
Hey, I am
arrested.
done.
He got arrested. They put that man in
Yeah, lock him up.
jail.
He gotta go.
Put him in
Like, why you
jail.
playing with me like
And
that?
they did a press conference. And the man was like, we are still trying to figure out how to inspect the scene without passing out from the smell.
I don't even know how to comment on that.
Let me tell y'all, first of all, great comeback. I just want to say for myself,
I hate it.
If
That was
you're
not a great
gonna-
comeback.
if you're going to retaliate,
don't
way
know,
to go.
yeah.
That is actually
Certain jobs, I probably would have loved to have done that.
that is a very smart way of doing it. What gave him away was the fact that he was super weak when it was happening. He was smiling too much.
Right, and you probably didn't eat the cake
No,
either.
he
Like,
ate
you the
it.
only one that eat the cake.
No,
yeah,
he
no.
ate it. He ate it.
Oh, so
It says he ate it. He ate it too.
I'm done with this story.
But he
already.
was laughing in the process, which is what gave it away. That was where he messed up.
such a weirdo.
But that was it's actually very clever if you can get away with it.
Why is
Very
it clever?
Because like if you can act like you're in pain too,
He's not acting. He ate the cake.
that's my point. He could have gotten away with it if he wasn't laughing.
Oh, okay.
But now he's in jail.
Yeah.
He is in jail.
What is the crime?
I would have been.
What did it say what they charged him with?
Like mischief or something, like intentional mischief.
Wow. You could go to jail for that. That's nuts. Think
They
about
put
that,
that
the next
man
time you
in
prank
jail.
your coworkers.
And his mugshot, he looked crazy.
Yeah, you
Like
probably do.
he looks
Clearly
nuts.
he is.
But
Who thinks of
it's
stuff like
honestly very, very clever. If you just want to get back at somebody,
this? Dave, we are not
put a laxative.
going to
in their
encourage
cake.
this behavior. We are not.
I was weak. I was like, he really did that. Like,
I hate it.
I don't think I would. I would just leave though. Like, don't give me no goodbye party. I don't want none of that. Just let me go.
For sure.
All right. Thank y'all for tuning in
Thank
to
you.
this episode. Remember,
Another hit.
like, share, subscribe, do all the things. We are Nah But For Real. We out
Nah,
here.
but for real, tell me how I feel. We on that fire, tell me what's the deal. Nah, but for real, tell me how I feel. We on that fire, tell me what's the deal.